Good evening, everyone. Let's start with the revision lecture 3 Critical Theory for CUET PGPS. The first topic is liberty, the foundation of individual freedom. Now, as for definition, liberty is understood as the freedom to think, act, and live without any external control. However, freedom is neither absolute nor uniform across society. Isaiah Berlin, he differentiated negative liberty from positive one. So negative liberty is freedom from interference. It seeks to protect individual from external constraint. So negative liberty means no person, not even state, can interfere in your personal freedom. Whereas positive freedom, that is the freedom to pursue one's potential, it advocates creating enabling conditions so that people can act autonomously. So here, state can interfere because the state has the manpower, the state has the resources, state has the taxation. So state can interfere, but this interference, it means you need to give up some of your rights, some of your freedom, so that state can create those conditions. Now let's have a look at key classical definitions. First, the definition of John Locke. In his two treatises of government, Locke defined liberty as the natural right of individual to live free from absolute rule and tyranny. So his idea about liberty was a kind of natural right, that people are born free with this right, that they have liberty for their life, their property, and he argued that government exists to preserve this liberty rather than restrict it. Now, the second definition of Jean Jacques Rousseau. So, in his work Contract, Rousseau introduced the concept of general will, in which individual liberties they stand at second place to the collective will. In other words, he he advocated for public liberty, that whatever kind of liberty is there, it should be common to people, and that common thing, it depend on the will of people, which means people together will to um, define liberty in certain area, more like collective principle of liberty. So by public liberty or collective principle of liberty, I mean that it is the public, it is the general rule that defines various parameters of liberty. So here, if the common public, if they decides that wearing this particular dress in public is not your right, then according to Jean-Jacques Rousseau, according to his social contract, this liberty will stand refuted. In other words, and in simple words, according to Jean-Jacques Rousseau, the concept of liberty, it will be decided by people collectively, and people, if people stand for a particular right A, then this will be considered liberty. If people do not accept certain condition B, then even if this is morally and ethically right, this will not be considered as liberty. Then, definition of Immanuel Kant. So he viewed liberty through a moral lens, emphasizing autonomy. Autonomy means that every individual, they are free to impose, free to work according to their own laws, according to their own rational laws. Now let's have a look at type of liberty. First, negative liberty, that is freedom from restraint from anyone, given by thinker Isaiah Berlin and his key works, Two Concepts of Liberty. So negative liberty is the absence of external constraint on individual. So this in short means non-interference by state or anyone. Examples: freedom of speech, freedom of religion, and freedom from any kind of government action. Now, this concept of liberty has been criticized that it can lead to inequality, as it does not ensure that everyone has the same capability or opportunity to exercise freedom, because There are certain conditions. Anyone who is born poor may not be capable to exercise his own freedom, his own liberty. Then the next concept, positive liberty, which is given again by Isaiah Berlin, T.H. Green, and Amartya Sen. Key work, Development as Freedom of Amartya Sen. Here, positive liberty, it focuses on capacity building. That if individuals capacity are builder, if they are promoted, then they can provide for their own better life. So it involves creating social and economic conditions that prompt individual to develop their own freedom. So such as right to education, healthcare, economic opportunities, and all of these are instances of state intervention, that state will interfere in these domains, and state will undertake this exercise so that certain conditions help people progress socially and economically. Now the criticism, that critics like Friedrich Hayek, they argue that excessive state intervention in the name of positive liberty can lead to authoritarianism. And this can be the case because you are you are relinquishing some of your freedom, some of your right, and giving it to state so that state can develop the enabling condition. But it depends on what kind of a state it is, and also on other oversight mechanism. So if it is a tyrannical state, a dictatorship, or any authoritarian state, then the state will snatch your liberty without giving anything in return. Now the third type, civil and political liberty. So civil liberty, they include freedom of expression, belief, association, and protection from arbitrary state action. So civil liberty, as the name suggests, it is liberty given to people as general. It is a kind of public liberty. So in other words, civil liberty are given to all the people, especially uh, if they have joined any constitution or any country via the agreement known as citizenship. So all the citizens, they are given the freedom of expression, by which they can express their thoughts by writing, by spoken words, by singing, by any art form. Now, belief, it means they can profess any religion, they can believe anything, they can believe into anything. Then the freedom of association, that any people, they can form group, they can form association. It can be any NGO, it can be any protest group, it can be any art group, it can be any singing group. So such associations are given under civil liberties. And then protection from arbitrary state action. So any such associations have been formed, or people have expressed themselves, because you can see all of these things, freedom of expression, belief, and association, all of them, they are always hated by the state, and they are not looked with ease by the state, just because if people have the right to protest, and they have been given the right to protest and form groups, and they can believe in anything, even they can believe in the conspiracy theories, then people can form group by freedom of expression. They will protest, they will express their ideas, and this will result in forming larger groups, which becomes a threat to those who are in power. And if it is not about holding power, then it can also become an administrative nightmare for all those people who are trying to regulate law and order. And next, political liberty, it refers to participation in governance, such as voting, freedom to run for office, content for election. The case study, the civil rights movement in the US, it fought for equal political and civil liberties for African Americans. And if you are not aware, civil rights movement, it abolished the racial segregation that happened between the white American and the colored African Americans. Now, the fourth type, economic liberty, it is coined by Milton Friedman in Capitalism and Freedom. It argues that free market economy, it maximizes individual freedom. So, economic liberty has many dimensions, common of which are that everyone should be free to pursue their own economic adventures, their own economic activities, and then opportunity should be there. So both these conditions, for first the condition of pursuit, that they can engage in any economic activities, and then opportunities are available, both can be clubbed as an insignia for economic liberty. But the ideas of Milton Friedman, they are more tilted towards capitalism, that free market economy. Free market economy means that any economy that is working on the principle of law and principle of demand and supply. Principle of demand and supply, it means that the whole world is a market and all the commodities are sold and bought here. So the prices of communities, it depends on the demand and the supply. It's very easy to see, if something is in very demand, any commodity A is in demand, but it is in short supply, then the price of this thing will go up. Now, if the same thing is in large supply, but it has no demand, then its price will go down. So, according to him, government should not intervene in market. The basic principle of free market economy is that government, if government intervenes in market for any reason, then this will make it a closed market, or it will make it a constrained market. And here lies the criticism. So thinkers like Karl Marx, that advocated socialism and communism, they criticized that unrestricted economic liberty without state intervention, it will deepen inequality and exploitation. So you may have seen this situation during COVID-19 pandemic, where the same market dynamic of free market economy were employed, and the oxygen cylinders, which generally cost around 5,000 to 8,000, and even during the lean season, you can find some cylinder for 800 to 1200 bucks. But because of the high demand to save lives during the COVID-19 pandemic, the same oxygen cylinders were sold around 50,000 to 1 lakh, as far as I know. Now let's have a look at liberty in modern democracies. First one, legal and constitutional safeguard. So the United Nations Universal Declaration of Human Rights, it recognizes liberty as a universal right, and even Indian Constitution has given freedom of speech, movement and profession by Article 19(1), and it has also provided a dynamic right known as the right to life under Article 21. Now the challenges to liberty in contemporary world. First one is state surveillance. So state surveillance means government monitor citizens in the name of security. So here the NSA's prison program in the US, and recently, just a few years ago, India has also, the Indian government was caught in surveillance software that was bought from Israel. I forgot the name, but this software was bought and installed on in the phones and electronic gadgets of many of the opponents. Now, second challenge is the social media and free speech, that sometimes the content moderation versus freedom of expression, this debate continues. And you might have had this feeling when you watch many Bollywood movies. So recently, most of the Bollywood movies, they have a lot of galis, बहुत सारी गालियाँ बकते हैं, and they try to prevent this right, they protect this right by hailing this Article 91, saying that it is their freedom of expression. But freedom of expression and gali bakna both are different things. Then religious and cultural restriction. So conflict of free expression in conservative society. So most of the conservative society and even India has been tilting towards it. So conservative society are those that try to cling on to the old ways of life, the orthodox principle, and those things they do not then advocate for, and they do not like free expression, because free expression then they inadvertently they revolve around the idea the religion versus science, between the divine origin theory and the Charles Darwin's evolution. A simple example. So uh, this is by this example you can imagine the kind of hiatus that happens between the orthodox elements and the rational elements. So these are the challenges. Now let's move on to equality, the bedrock of justice and democracy. So, equality is the idea that all individuals should be treated with equal respect and given equal opportunity to realize their potential. So, there are these two elements together form the idea of equality. First, equal treatment, then equal opportunities. Then, critical theory it distinguishes between formal equality that guarantees equal treatment under law and substantive equality, which focus on the rectifying error, rectifying historical injustices. Then the modern welfare state it embodies the ideas of substantive equality by ensuring affirmative action, a redistribution of wealth, and social welfare program. So you can see the difference. Formal equality it is about the legal connotation that the law will provide equal opportunity, law equal treatment to everyone. But in any society that has gone through a long era of historical injustices, a long era of oppressive caste system, this formal equality will not mend the bridges. So here needed something that correct all those injustices so that a level playing field can be achieved. So this thing it talks about substantive equality, the principle that by rectifying those errors, by providing affirmative action, by providing state help, by redistributing wealth, some sense of level playing field can be achieved. Now, the definition of equality. So it refers to principle of treating everyone with equal consideration and respect in the distribution of resources, opportunity, rights, and privilege. So here, the definition of equality is via the perspective of state, via the perspective of government. That government should treat everyone equal, because we are talking about a substantive principle. That government should not resort to any favoritism in distribution of wealth, in distribution of opportunities, in provision of opportunities, in giving rights and privileges. Now, the definition. Aristotelian politics, he argued that equals should be treated equally and unequals unequally. And this principle had later formed one of the foundation principle for substantive principle of equality. Now, the definition of Jean-Jacques Rousseau in Social Contract, he said that man is born free, but everywhere he is in chain. So he's about he's lamenting the social inequalities that are rampant in the modern world. Now, the dimensions of equality. First, formal or legal equality means equality before law and equal treatment by the state. Thinkers which are associated with it, John Locke, he advocated for legal equality, that a principle where state equally protects everyone. Then Montesquieu also treated the same line in the spirit of law. He championed separation of power to uphold equality before law. Now, the same principle have found place in the Indian Constitution under Article 14, where the state shall not deny any person equality before law. The criticism of formal equality that it ignores existing social and economic inequalities. इसका मतलब है कि अभी you have formed a state and now you are saying all the people will be treated equally, but what about the historical injustices. Without without rectifying those inequalities that have been rampant for thousands of years, you cannot just switch on to a new mode of equality. So this is the first criticism about it. Now, the second dimension or second type, substantive or real equality, it means that people should be given equal access to opportunities and fair distribution of resources, so that fair outcomes can be achieved. Now, the thinkers associated, Amartya Sen, in Development as Freedom, he stressed the idea of capability equality. So, capability equality, as the name suggests, means that everyone should be given, should be provided enabling condition so that people can realize that potential. Everyone should be given a chance so that they can harness their capability. Then, in the words of T.H. Marshall in Citizenship and Social Class, he argued that social rights are essential for true equality. The examples of substantive are affirmative action, reservation, welfare scheme, welfare program. Now, the third type is economic equality, which means addressing income disparities and economic exploitation. So, economic equality is not about providing equal wealth to everyone. It is about addressing income disparities, income inequalities, and to address the issue of economic exploitation. Now, the champion, Karl Marx, he viewed equality as the abolition of class system, and this class system can be abolished by economic redistribution. So, economic redistribution means resources, all the wealth, it should be redistributed from the rich to everyone who has worked for it. Now, the contemporary relevance, so rising global inequality, as highlighted by Thomas Piketty in Capital in 21st Century, it warned against dangers of wealth concentration. And same thing has been highlighted by Oxfam report, which says that the 10% of the rich people, they control 90% of the wealth. Now, the fourth type, political equality, which means everyone is treated equally at political level, and it means right to participate in political process by voting, by contending for office. And here the key aspect is universal adult franchise, and example, voting rights movement, women's suffrage, civil movement, anti-apartheid struggle. Suffrage means to achieve voting rights, and civil rights means to give in equal political and social rights, and anti-apartheid means to resist against laws that racially segregate people. Now, the fifth type, social equality, it means eliminating discrimination that are based on social parameters such as caste, race, religion, gender. Case study, in India, caste-based inequalities were challenged by B.R. Ambedkar, who advocated for social justice and affirmative action, and it found its place in Article 15 and 17, which abolished the Article 17, it abolished untouchability in all its form, and Article 15, it abolishes discrimination on the basis of race, class, gender, sex, etc. Now, theories and thinkers on equality. First, liberalism, that focuses on individual rights and legal equality. Here, the thinker associated are John Stuart Mill, who advocate for equal rights, but also warn against state overreach. Second, Marxism, that emphasizes economic equality and class struggle, and he sees that capitalism is inherently unequal, and egalitarianism, which means equality can be achieved by socialism. Socialism as a principle means the distribution of wealth on social grounds. Then John Rawls, in Theory of Justice, he introduced justice as a fairness, advocating for difference principle. That is, inequalities are justified only if they benefit the least advantaged. same the merit system, that if UPSC is conducting any exam and this exam is again kind of inequality without any reservation, then this inequality should benefit the least advantage. All those people, such as the the spatially able people, people who are historically disadvantaged, people from other gender, the LGBTQ community. Now, feminist theory, they challenge the patriarchal structure that perpetuate gender-based inequalities. And here, thinkers like Betty Friedan, the feminine mistake the push for gender equality. Then, post-colonial thinkers, they highlighted racial and cultural inequalities in global structure. Now, equality and state. So first one is constitutional right. So as we have already seen, our Indian Constitution, it has provided fundamental rights that guarantees equality. And those are listed in Part 3 of our Constitution from Article 14 to 18. Article 14 is about providing equal treatment before law. 15 and 16, they are about providing equal treatment without looking at social parameters such as caste, religion, sex, etc. 17 is about abolition of untouchability, and 18 is about abolition of all kinds of titles. Then state has provided various welfare benefits in health, education, and social welfare program. And state has also undertaken policies like reservation that has aimed to correct historical injustices. Now, the contemporary challenge to equality: first, globalization, because it is widening rich-poor divide. Second, gender inequality. They are persistent wage gaps between what is given to a man and a woman. Then women are also underrepresented in politics, and there are various kind of violence against women. And during the COVID-19 lockdown, such the true story of violence against women, they became surface when people became close unto one another. And finally, racial and ethnic inequalities. So the issues like Black Lives Matter in US, they are still still going. And recently, we have seen in the US, after the Donald Trump government has started second term, there have been various injustices, various atrocities against the people who are non-white, that include the Negroid, the Mongoloid, and various mixed races. Then caste-based discrimination. There are also, despite legal provision, caste operation or caste-based discriminations are still persisting, and they have found a new element, the caste-based politics. And this kind of politics, it, instead of abolishing the discrimination, it perpetuates. So this is it. Thank you very much.